Good morning. I'm just getting stuff set up here, and hopefully things are coming across nicely. Make sure that I have some audio working and just push this out a little bit more. There we go. Wish I could get some of this working before I actually go live. Where am I? Just one more push here, and then I think that's all that stuff looked after. Morning, Martin. Is it morning? Evening? It's morning for me. It must be evening for you. Is that actually coming across? That's coming across. There we go. Now, I need to just double check. Here, yes, the microphones are coming across nicely. I got a little bit of background hum. I thought what I was dealing with was some a grounding hum, but it turns out no, that's actually sound coming from the two external drives that I have working here. I'm going to have to relocate them, and they need a better home anyway. Where they're sitting is supposed to be the base of O-scale town, so they will be moved. What's going on here today? Well, I am going to be let's see, let's move this over. I was right, it was evening. Great. What I'm going to be working on today, last week I was painting a couple of my prints from my SLA printer, the Moya, and so this is dealing with resins. I haven't done much painting with them. What I did was yesterday or the day before, I don't have the right primer. I have some auto primer. It's the thicker primer, the filler primer. I just lightly dusted one of my models with that, so we'll see how that goes. The problem with that stuff, the pigments are so big, and it is a thick one. It is there to hide some of the small dents, as it were, which is exactly what I don't want to do with these models. So I do have some fine primer on its way. Thank you, Amazon. Probably won't have it for a few days, so maybe next week we'll have it. Actually, next week I'll have another model that needs to be painted. But in the meantime, what we have, we're going to do that. And I found the locomotive I have. I think I talked about it on my blog. It was given to me. It's an ON30 Forney, and I have it out right now. And that's a part that I'm going to model in Fusion 360 and then print that out and get it on there. So that's going to take a little bit of engineering. You won't be doing the work today, but we'll at least have a look at it. Let's take a look here. Oh, the other thing that's going on is, I should move this so I can see what camera is up. There's my other horse. And for some reason everything just disappeared. Good. So, I normally turn my phone off for these, but what I have some Peel Poly resin sitting at Canada Customs. It's been there for over 2 weeks now. I actually managed to talk to a human being Friday. Left a message there yesterday. I have to contact them again, but they do have my number. I'm trying to find out why they're still holding it. So what's different with this order is there's the Peel Poly Tough resin, which is what I really wanted from this order. Of course, it's still being held. So if the phone rings and it's them, I'm taking the call. But what we did last week was painted one of my test models up. You can tell these are test models because there's no mane and there's no tail. I'm going to show you another little section about this later on. But this painting was just done on a unprimed model, and it shows, well, this one you can just see brush strokes. I tried a number of different paints to figure out what's what. I'll have to go look at the video again. But these were just brushed on. I did not do any airbrushing with this. But these are test models. I just wanted to see how it took. And the answer was definitely this stuff needs a primer. So what I have is this guy here. Once again, this is automotive filler primer that's on here. Why? Well, it's because what I had. It's the first painting I did in my workshop, which turned out wonderful. It's fantastic to be able to go out there and work. Still trying to find homes for things. There. So I'm going to paint this guy up. But the other thing we have here, and of course this stuff's black. One of the things I have to work on, I had out, here we go, small flashlight. If you can see in here, this has been broken off. So the brake's right there. So I think there's this little part missing in here as well. And as I was saying, the problem I have with what I'm doing is everything is so small. I have to work with my cameras in order to get you folks to be able to see what it's like. So the other side, take it, that's a steam box. And that's the piping leading to it. So there's this part that sits on the top, and then you got your cylinder down below. So I'm going to have to dismantle this, pull that out. Let's see, yep. So right over here is where the steam would be coming out by the looks of it. And then it would go into this, so that part is missing, which is fine. That little piece of brass or piano wire will take care of that. Then it sits on top, but then I got to straighten out the gearing on here. So that's a little challenge for getting that done. And then it's time to start doing little add-ons for it. But anyways, there are other solutions for doing it, but my goal is to do it through 3D printing and solve that. So once again, other than that, this is a very nice locomotive. It's equipped with DCC, and hey, it was free, so I can't argue with it. It's unpainted, so we got some paint work to do on there, and it'll need a crew. Those are the details that we'll work on printing out. So it'll be a nice addition to the ON30 fleet. So that's what's going on with that locomotive, and I'm going to have a challenge working with that. But with the topic of the day, we have our horse. Once again, this is not tap water, it is distilled water. Toss some here. Spread some around on the pallet. There. Keep that handy. So what I'm going to do first, well, I tried this marker last time. So let's take a look and see how it comes out with the prime paint there. I think I did this same last time. It was a belly shot. This one of the dead ones. This one may be dead. I've had these for a while. These are Pantone markers by Letroset, and last time I looked for some, there weren't very many available. They're not as common as they used to be. Now Sharpie has theirs, and this is a paint one. It's still sealed. I'm going to leave it sealed for now. Let's see, does that work? That one works. The thing I like about these is they're fast, easy to use. Minimal cleanup. Actually, I want a darker leg here for the horse. My goal is to be airbrushing this stuff, but I do not have things set up there for streaming or recording. But I think this will work. The primer is what was needed. Hello, Ontario. We actually had some snow last night, but I think it's gone already. But the mountains are just fantastic. Well, I live in a valley, and across the valley, the mountains just have that beautiful look of fresh snow on them. And then since I'm looking to the west, they had the morning sun on them. Absolutely gorgeous. I started my series on how to take these from DAZ 3D and move them into and turn them into a model that you can print. And I had an interesting revelation the other day as I was shooting that stuff. and comes with the main. And one of the problems and one of the reasons why the SLA print will fulfill my need where the FDM printing falls down on it. And one of the viewers, and I can't think of the name, pointed out that the DAS group, and I can't think of they were called Indigo Software at one point, and I don't think they're called that anymore. But anyways, they have a 3D modeling package that is sort of become part of the DAS 3D family, and that package is called Hexagon, and it's also free. And so, well, geez, do we really need another 3D package? Well, since it ties into DAS, and since I prefer DAS for I don't know, the organic models, for things like these horses, it's nice to have a program tied in. And the key thing with it, here, I actually got to pull dog hair or cat hair away from it. Key thing with that package is that it looks like it's straightforward to model clothing with it. And so when I want to make my engineers, this is, I think it's Atlas built these, when I get into doing my own people, you got all the wrinkles of the clothes, and the hats with the women, the dresses. Where's my lady here? This lady I got when I was a teenager. When I was building models and that, and as I recall, she actually cost quite a bit for this model. But you can see how the paint is aged on here. The time frame I'm modeling, pre 1910, preferably 1900. This is what the women will be wearing. This is what they'll look like. So a lot of dresses and the hats. It's not a lot of models out there for people looking like this. And my inspiration is Hello Dolly. If you look at what they're wearing, I'm going to have to be making most of the people for my layout from that, especially since I have there we go. What I'm working on is it's a hotel. This line exists to take people from the nearest town, or if they've gotten off the standard gauge trains, they get onto the narrow gauge. They go for a trip. They go by the seaside, and then up into the hills to a mountain resort, and where they're roughing it because here's my story again. Before air conditioning, if you're on the East Coast, I'm certain it was on places like San Francisco and LA, and that were the same, although they're much smaller communities. But definitely on the East Coast, when it was summertime, if there's any way you could do it, you got out of the cities and you went to the various resorts out there, and that's where you spent your summers. So this one is a higher end resort, and so on the train stations and in the passenger cars will be these well-to-do individuals going on their vacation, their summer vacation, off to the summer house. So I'll be needing a lot of these folks. Now, what was I going to do? This one, I got the legs dark on here, and I think that'll come out quite nicely. It'll be nice to airbrush this, but I'm just going to try this tan color on here, or something close to it. Now, with your normal bottles, you should not shake them, but with these ones, since they just have the eyedropper top to them, it's okay to shake them up. You're not running into the same problem. Is there another one there? It's really dark. Not going with yellow. Now, talking to a friend, when I ordered the primer, I have 2 cans of primer coming. And one, let's see how that is. That might be too dark. Yeah, that one's going to be too dark. Not what I wanted. Talking to a friend about priming models. I'm going to follow his suggestions on it. And dark green, black rush, peel, oxide, dark or sand yellow. Sand yellow will work for me, I think. Sort of a beige. But what he does with his, oh yeah, that's closer. Because most of his models, and most of my models, are have a base coat of black. So you'd use a dark primer for it. And so I have a dark primer on order. That's closer. But for key models, what he uses, and this is a background model because he doesn't have a tail on here, and just a test model. Anyways, what he uses for the key models, so commanders, things like that, if he's dealing with war game miniatures, is he does their base coat in white. And what you get out of that is they just stand out a little bit more. They gleam. Now, I paint almost all my models with a base coat of black and then add color on top of the black. But I am going to try his technique of using for foreground models, places where you want people's focus to end up. I'm just brushing over the marker. It still will be darker underneath, but I think that'll work. I'm going to try this, priming them in white, and see how that turns out. Another nice thing about using those markers, they dry pretty quick. Not totally dry, but it is mostly dry. think if you look past the fact that this guy has no tail, I'll be able to put him in the background somewhere. The other joy of printing these guys is I can print some of them at a slightly smaller scale, move them into the background for the force perspective. Oh yes, this guy doesn't have a mane either. We'll paint one on there. One of the horses I rode in Pony Club was painted, and he not only did he have multiple colors for his coat, he his eyes didn't match either, and his personality matched all that. And one day he threw me so high, you know, the saying goes, yeah, you could see the roof of the barn between underneath me as I was flying through the air. That I can't remember the name of that one. It wasn't our horse, it was our neighbor's horse. I don't know why I was on him instead of on my horse, but it was interesting. Once again, I think first lesson they should give you in Pony Club or something like that, or one of the early lessons, is how to fall. As when we're learning how to joust, lesson number 1 was how to fall. And there's a few situations where that would have been useful. So, hello Italy, international crew, Iceland, Canada, a couple of us, Italy. Yeah. So here we go. I think that turned out not too bad. It's a little bit darker than I wanted. I may have to play with this, because right now it actually looks like an olive green, and that's shouldn't be the way it is. Where this model is going to end up, it will be under these same similar LEDs, so I'll have to adjust the colors for that. But the primer's doing its job. Having that, once again, this is automotive gray primer. A black primer would be good. I don't think what I have is black. I think it's called dark gray that's on its way. But on the whole, you know, it'll fit in. Well, building up the scene. Before these guys can make it over to the layout, I have some 4-foot by 8-foot sheets of styrene that I have to cut down for a backdrop, so I can install the backdrop before I actually start adding the scenery. So those are one of the tasks, but now I have the workshop. I'm at the point where I can make that cut. But still, I think these will add to the layout. With Let me just grab things over here. There we go. Landscapes. Hey, Glenn. By the way, Glenn, watched you on Saturday. You talked about how your house is wired, how you put conduit in so you can run whatever cable you need. And if you want to, you know, the day comes you can upgrade to fiber, you can do that. I've designed that in a few places. The last office I did a bunch of work in. Added a whole lot to their budget. They had budgeted nothing for running their their networking cables in there. So I had to do that, but there were several places in there. That's what I did, is I put in empty conduit so we could run what was needed later. Of course, I put network hookups throughout the building, every place I can imagine. And about a year later, the president of that company wanted to add a printer at about the only place in the building where I didn't have a hookup. You know, you can't win. But no, I like having that conduit in. I know an engineer who put in not a wiring conduit, he put in a 12-inch tunnel, basically, between his detached garage and his house and his basement, so he could put whatever he wanted through there. He ran a water line in there. He had all of his various computer cables in there, an air line for compressed air going from his workshop into his house. He just said, well, I can put whatever I want in there and whatever comes up down the road. So that's a neat idea. I always kept it in the background. This house, I don't have that, because this house is built in the 40s, and my next major challenge in this house is getting a whole lot more power routed in here. Every outlet I have on this side of the house has a power bar attached to it, which isn't great. You know, it's all low draw stuff, but still don't want to do that. Now, what I have here is, there we go, get the right camera up here. This is the horse that I put together in DAZ 3D, and it's part of my series of taking a DAZ model and getting it ready for SLA printing. Now, this highlights one of the issues where this stuff doesn't work all that well for doing FDM prints. Reason why is this main over here. These are just sheets that within the modeling they project the texture map onto here for the mane, and same for the tail. Now watch what happens if you do an analysis on here and inspect it, and we're going to do a repair. It says we have problems with all of these, so let's repair this. This one was selected, but see all these planes that were used for projection, they wouldn't print in an FDM print because they're basically a two-dimensional plane. It didn't have any depth to it, so there's nothing to print. But let's put that back. Within SLA printing, these should come across once I'm done with them. I haven't done my extra modeling on them and that's coming up. I'm working on that part. If you hear crunching, by the way, that's Max in the background, my dog. I'm going to be taking this model. It won't come directly into here first. It actually goes into ZBrush first, and that's the part I'm shooting right now to add more detail to the tail and to the mane. So then we'll come in here and hollow it out and print it out. I just wanted to go over that issue because it's going to be make or break between SLA and FDM printing. But you know, I'm focused on horses because that's the first thing I wanted to do this spring when I got a 3D print. But there's the train stuff. I have that Forney you have to do, and I have a whole bunch of dollhouse furniture I'm working on. So we'll be pushing out on that. Let's move this down. I had another one open up here. Oh yes, I talked about this. This is Hexagon, which is another free 3D modeling program. I've seen a couple of tutorials and I've opened up this screen. I haven't seen anything else with it. So it just looks like, okay, here's another tool. What can we do with it? What I saw, the interaction between this and DAZ is very useful for someone like myself. As I said, for something like the parts for the engine, that one, Fusion 360, that's the ideal program for something like that. But this has possibilities for working with my models, because let's see if I can in here, and what can we do? Well, it's Hexagon. Let's bring in this horse. I haven't seen any of this, so this is brand new. See what it does. It thinks about it. No, that was not notification of shipping. Oh, I wonder if the problem is I have this open right now. I may have to. There we go. So the idea is you model within this program. That's male. This is not the one I did for my series, because the one I did in the series is a mare who's slightly pregnant, and this one's obviously a full male. So this is a different model. Anyways, you can work with the models in here and send them directly into DAZ for positioning. Once again, DAZ is designed to be a program that you use for animation, but you have the posing capabilities, everything else. This model here, I don't have the bone structure in here right now, as far as I know. But this looks like it's an area where I can do some modeling, do the tweaking, and then do the export out. Now, this one, the comment was they're working on adding the 3D printing export capability to it, so you're not running through a ton of programs. So we'll have to see which one was I using there? There we go. How that comes out. So, you know, we're lucky that there's a plethora of here is a good chance to see how the base of this tail is splayed out. So these are just, you know, single planes, project an image onto them. But so this one, this program is going to be seeing a number of additions to it. We got primitives, work with the vertices, add some text on here. Pretty much your standard toolkit. Now, okay, that's the bridge between DAS. Hello, Bob. And once again, we have our tool sets when we get in. I'm not certain what they mean by UV, but paint capabilities. Here we come into our various textures, things that don't apply for our 3D printing purposes. Oh, this is going to be an interesting learning process getting into here. So once again, this is Hexagon, and it's free with DAS. Let's see what else. What else do we have here? Which faces to work with? Interesting. Okay, surface modeling. This is one that will get used, especially the smoothing. Now, I don't know if it's an add-on to it or what have you, but the clothing becomes, you know, some of it is you put a primitive on. Then you push it around and then do some smoothing on it. Now, there was something where you could actually drape clothing on, which is what I'm looking for. So I'm going to have to do research on this. As mentioned, this was just added in on the weekend. One of the viewers noted that this is something that could be used. So another tool in the tool chest, and yeah, you just saw me going through that while I had the wrong image up there. There we go. As I said, we're going through, you know, what tools do we have on here, and surface modeling here. The surface modeling will be where we can do some of that manipulation for getting the dresses done, what have you. So we'll have to work on that and see what happens. Good. That's what I got with that one. What else is new? I had something else. Always joy of running a business there, Glenn. I'm dealing with a situation here where a senior person for one of the societies I'm on the board of, a senior individual became ill, and turned out they had no succession planning whatsoever, and it's a lot of picking up parts, and it being a large society with a multi-million-dollar budget, it's a real headache. We're funded through various government organizations, and you have to meet all their reporting structures, and some of the reporting hasn't been done for some time, so it's a real catch-up. But with these, it's worthwhile getting the work done. It's one that really helps the community, so it's worthwhile getting it done. It's just a headache getting through it. And I've never dealt with unions before, really directly. I've after Katrina, I was in Gulfport, Mississippi, and there I was liaison between the American Red Cross, which I knew nothing, to all levels of U.S. government, which I knew nothing, but a disaster is a disaster, and that's what I'm trained for. But part of the liaison team was we had a union desk there within our group, and it was very handy because when you're in a disaster area and you try to get someone from the trades, they're all busy. They have a lifetime worth of work in there, so it's very hard to pull them away to get something done. But we could go to the union and say, we wouldn't say we need a plumber, we'll just tell them we have this machine and it needs to be hooked up at this location, can you find someone to do it? Or we need to get this built, we have a whole bunch of people that are unskilled labor, but they're young, willing to work, but we need someone to tell them what to do. For that one, we're building platforms for tents, and the union reps went through their list, and they found a retired carpentry instructor, and so he came, and he was perfect, got the job done. For the other equipment we needed hooked up, rather than just finding a plumber, they found the right person, knew how to do the job. Since he knew what equipment they had, he showed up, did the exact hookup, and he was gone. There's no time wasted, and we got our job done. So that was a fantastic way to work with them. So that's been a learning experience. Ooh, ouch! That really hurts. Well, where's my other program? What else was I running here? Where's my folder? Oh, one thing I do have to bring up, and this has nothing to do with 3D printing, other than when Joe Mike did his promotion for my channel, the video clip he showed me playing Minecraft, and Glenn, you know about this because I've shown you and Xander, but I just had to bring this up again. Here we go. This is the level of my insanity. This looks really pretty. I love the look of it. Here's my latest work, and if you play in Minecraft, if you know anything about it, there's two modes. There's survival mode, where you need to obtain everything you need, and then there's creative mode, where everything you want is just there. I'm playing this in survival mode. These towers you see there's going to be 225 of them, and this is only the top third of the tower. They're going to be going down, way down. If we look over here, you can't tell from this angle, can you? This is the roof. I finally had to turn the clouds off. I would leave clouds on if they would run into the buildings and realize you can't have a cloud in there. though I know that in the large assembly building where the Saturn V's were put together, they did have clouds form up inside. You know, for a while, for a long time, that was the world's biggest building. You can see down there that here's a couple of the towers are slowly dropping down, extending down. And yeah, with the edge, first of all, you see I'm level 90 in here. Well, if I hadn't fallen off of his so many times, I'd be up in the 200-300s or something like that. But then my son pointed out to me, all I have to do is hold down the shift key, and then I can sort of run along the edge and not fall off. But you get the same physical reactions from playing around in this as you do in real life. For example, when I'm mining, when I built a couple of these already. This is just the biggest one to date. If I'm looking up when I mine, yeah, this is where I'm working. My neck hurts. I get the same sore neck that I would if I'm looking up. And my head hasn't moved. I'm looking straight ahead. But because my character's looking up, my neck starts reacting the same way, even though physically I haven't moved where I'm looking. But the same thing comes from that clenching feeling you get when you get near the edge. So where are the stairs? Well, before I put this away, I'll show you the stairs. Yeah, I've hidden stairs in some of these. This tower is under construction, and I've run out of blocks for it. And when I do this, all I think of is the Far Side. If you got the Far Side cartoons, if you're familiar with those, there's a great one with the picture of a lighthouse and little bubbles coming out around it. All you see is oof, oof, off, off, thump, thump, whap, thump. And yeah, in real life, if I was coming down one of these, with my luck, I would trip and I would fall down. And there you see the ceiling coming in. Here I made it solid, and I realized if it's solid like that, the sunlight doesn't get through, and it gets rather dark under here. So I went to this grid pattern. Looks like I'm putting up T-bar, but I got the grid up there, so I get the tower heights correct. And then I will be get an egg, working with this, slowly filling it in as this slowly gets developed. I'll show off one more thing, and then I'll get back to 3D printing. The joy of doing a stream. We'll just take a look at stuff. Now there's utilities, so you can design things actually and then fire them off to the 3D printer. So for me, I don't see use for that, but I imagine for kids that could be useful. Now, so many places right now you can get the educational version of Minecraft. I have no idea what's in there, but it does intrigue me. See, the walls are all done now for the upper part of the wall. How far up? I'm at 59. So there's 59 blocks to go down to get down to bedrock, which is what I'll be doing for this. But when you're making things like this, you need logistical support. And I have 4 of these villages. Lots of chickens, lots of pigs. The trees, this is my lumber yard. Use that. I use a lot of paper, make a lot of paper. I do all this in order to support my logistics, because I don't make all these tools, I purchase them. from these folks. So that means having a lot of people, a lot of gardens, a lot of cattle, pigs. They're all for trade. So here's my logistical support. I figured out that it's important to have non-wood roofs because especially this one, this area seems to get a lot of lightning strikes. And one day I came in and the roof of some buildings were gone, but so I made it stone roofs, and that took care of that problem. And I'll just get over here. Hey, who are you? You're a weaponsmith. Don't need you. Lots of storage, and all these things are here for trade. So I'll just put that away. So when I'm brain dead, that's what I work on. Because I can do that, it's sort of mindless and long going. Now, wake up, brain. Speaking of brain dead, have a drink of juice and then with the resins, as I said, I have on order and sitting at customs is the tough resin, and now there's some resins that are being promoted as being once cured, you can get up to 250 Fahrenheit, I think, for the parts. These parts that I've made for the shredder, this is why I'm waiting for the tough one. They experience some heat, but not that much heat. But the part I showed off a few weeks ago, which was actually for a commercial coffee grinder, that one, it is the heat vent, and that does get exposed to heat. It was first one, I didn't make it, someone else printed it in ABS, and it actually turned brittle and fell apart. So I'm looking to see how well it turns out. I told the client that, you know, I don't know the properties of these, so if I have to reprint it for again, I will. I would just use a different resin, and so that's where I'm looking for the tough. So there's the tough resins out there. There's a couple of them that are more resistant to the heat, as well as the one that's really exciting, and I keep thinking more uses for it, is a silicone resin. So you get resin that can be stretched. The final print can be stretched 2.5 times. You have compression, you have flexibility to it. So that one, some folks are testing it out for these resin printers for the Moya, and so I haven't heard the results yet. I don't know if Chris got into it. I'll have to check with Chris to see what his results are, if he actually is testing it. So it does have that functional use to it. I've actually printed more things with this printer that have ended up being out there being used as tools than the stuff that I got it for, my models. But we're there. We're getting there. It's I think it's time for me to go take some of my meds. We'll see how this goes. I'll wrap up here and just let my brain settle. The horse that I printed over this week, or last week, this one does have a mane and tail. I did this painting last week on it, I'm now going to actually take it out. I'm going to hit it with the primer, and I'll get another coat. The one I did just now, it's dry to the touch. So the next part, I'd fleck it some and maybe add just some brown flecks to it. And this will be a background horse, no tail. Maybe I'll just add some putty there, give it something, and then paint on a mane to it. And then I still want to make a full, see how that works. What do we got here? Oh, coming up Friday, we do have a chat coming up, and Joe Mike is hosting, and we're talking about Delta machines, and I think it's on here. Delta printers. Don't see it there. I can get there. I know I have the info here. I don't have glasses. And Delta machines, part cooling, and printing nylon. That's the items that he'll be tackling on, or we'll be talking about on Friday. That's 10 p.m. Eastern, and I think I already have the info on the links down there. If not, I'll put it there. 10 p.m. Eastern Friday with Joe Mike Tarantella. Hey, he butchers the Zidim, so I can butcher his name. We'll get that. That'll be an area to cover. I know nothing about Delta machines, but I'm eager to learn and ask questions. I have part 2 of the printing of the horse, getting a horse ready for SLA printing in progress. So hopefully I'll have that posted by Saturday, and then I'll have my Sunday regular blog up as well. I'm going to go take some medications and take it easy. So thanks for tuning in, folks, and hopefully next week I'll be able to get into the using the tough resin. We'll see. I'll do my daily call into customs, see if I can find a human being, and then meantime, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe, hit the bell to make sure that you get notified when I'm coming on air. I hope you like this. Hit the like button and be safe out there. Have a good day, all.